is Valley News Live at 4.
Good afternoon, everyone. We have new information on a body that was found in the Otter Tail River. Officials say 46-year-old Alex Rodriguez of New York was found dead in Fergus Falls. The police say his body appears to have been in the river for an extended period of time, though no foul play is suspected. We're also learning that police have identified the body pulled from the Red River in Grand Forks over the weekend. The body of 32-year-old Jacob Lastly of Red Lake was discovered Saturday. Police say there were no obvious signs of trauma, but the cause of death has not been determined. Lastly was reported missing on April 17th. Investigators believe he may have been the person reported to be in the river back on April 8th, which initiated a search. Anyone with information should contact Grand Forks Police at 787-8000 or submit a tip on the department's website, Facebook page, or on the Tip 411 app. New for you at 4, a man was arrested today after causing thousands of dollars in damages to a Bell Bank in Fargo. Just before 8:30, Fargo police received reports of someone throwing rocks at the windows of Bell Bank on 13th Avenue South. Police say the damage is estimated to be between $10,000 and $15,000. 41-year-old Jeremy Wayne Peterson was arrested for terrorizing, criminal mischief, reckless endangerment, attempted robbery, and an assault on a security officer. Well, this week's forecast has a cool down in store. Hutch joins us with a first look. Hutch?
Stacey, thanks so much. First and foremost, it's kind of nice to be talking about a quiet stretch of weather as well. Presently, temperatures in the 60s, winds below 60 miles per hour, and well, the moon last night was quite the talk of the region. 50s up in northern Minnesota and 80s in central South Dakota. Range of temperatures is quite large. Many of us, though, sitting in those 60s. And on that boundary, we are seeing some clouds and a few sprinkles. We're talking about that area from the oil patch over Lake Sakakawea and into central portions of North Dakota. Nothing too significant there. We are seeing just the high clouds from that activity here in the FM areas. We head into the evening. Your temperatures look lovely and very comfortable. The wind not so bad, and all in all, it's a great day to get out there and catch up on a little bit of outdoor fun or outdoor yard work. I'm trying to have my grass baled here the last couple of days. It's been a challenge as we take a look at temperatures up north, cooling off fairly quickly tonight. Rain chances return for many of us by tomorrow. I'll have hour-by-hour details on what you can expect, Stacey, on that, and a look ahead at that cooler weather you're speaking of here in just a moment.
All right, thanks, Hutch. New for you at 4, there's new evidence in the investigation into a North Dakota state senator who's resigning following a report about text messages he exchanged with an inmate. Records indicate Ray Holmberg ran up travel expenses the past decade that are more than 14 times what lawmakers bill state taxpayers on average. They show Holmberg has made taxpayer-funded trips to 4 dozen U.S. cities, as well as China, Canada, and several countries in Europe. He was reimbursed about $126,000 for nearly 70 trips. Holmberg announced this month that he would resign June 1st. A local nurse originally from eastern Ukraine is feeling the weight of the war from across the world. Olha Finelli lives in Bemidji but still has family in Ukraine. Her parents, sister, brother-in-law, and 3-year-old niece were in the path of destruction. She says her only connection with them was through the phone.
You hang up on the phone and you don't know if this conversation will last. It was incredibly important for me to get them here. My dad and my brother-in-law, they're still there.
Much of Olha's family, though, fled to Poland, and get this, her co-workers at Sanford Bemidji raised enough money to get them from Poland back to Minnesota. You can hear more on that story tonight on Valley News Live at 5. Russia is warning that military tensions will increase as Finland moves to join NATO. Finland and Sweden are now ditching decades of neutrality toward Russia, but a massive shift in public opinion made it politically possible. 75% of Finns support joining NATO, and support is growing in Sweden, especially as the threat of nuclear war becomes more real.
The nuclear threat, it's very serious. I think that within NATO, actually, it gives us security when it comes to nuclear, because NATO also have nuclear nuclear weapons.
The speed with which Finland and Sweden are trying to join NATO is unprecedented, but the threat of an increasingly isolated and unpredictable Russia has leaders in both countries saying they have little other choice but to join the military alliance. Senate Minority Leader Mitch Mcconnell welcomed Finnish leaders to NATO today. President Zelensky posted a video of the meeting on social media, writing it was a powerful signal of bipartisan support for Ukraine from the U.S. Congress and the American people. Last week, Democratic and Republican senators joined forces churches in a rare moment of unity in an attempt to pass a $40 billion aid package for Ukraine, only to be stymied by a single Republican lawmaker, Senator Rand Paul. President Biden visited Buffalo, New York today, the scene of one of 5 mass shootings in this country from Friday evening to last night. We go to CBS's Ed O'Keefe with more from the White House.
The shooting in Buffalo over the weekend is once again raising questions about what, if anything, the White House and Congress can do to address the rise of violent extremism and regulate firearms in this country. Over the weekend, President Biden addressed a police memorial event here in Washington. He mentioned the shooting in Buffalo. He talked about unity. He did not mention the ongoing push for gun control, but he has taken some steps to crack down on gun violence through executive action. And just on Friday, he urged mayors and police chiefs to use some of the federal pandemic relief money they've received in the last year to boost police and public safety budgets. But Democrats have been blocked from passing major gun control legislation for years amid the concern of some fellow Democrats and Republicans. Meantime, the House is expected to take up legislation to combat domestic terrorism in the coming weeks. There have been some disagreements among Democrats on how exactly to proceed on that issue, and even if it gets out of the House, it's unclear what would happen to it over in the Senate. But with all these shootings over the weekend, outside NBA games, at churches, those that have happened in classrooms or shopping malls, there is no sense that the White House and Congress are going to take action anytime soon to address the rise of gun violence and domestic violent extremism. Ed O'Keefe.
That church shooting in Southern California made headlines not just for the act of violence, but for several acts of what officials are calling exceptional heroism by a group of parishioners. The Orange County Sheriff's Department said 30 to 40 people were gathered for lunch after a morning church service when gunfire erupted. The 6 victims who were shot were all Asian and ranged from 66 to 92 years old. One person was killed, many others hurt. A former pastor grabbed a chair and hit the gunman while he was reloading. That's when others jumped in and hogtied the suspect and waited for police. The FBI and ATF are now investigating. The suspect is an Asian man in his 60s. Investigators are working to determine whether he has any connections to that church. Breaking news just into our newsroom. Baby formula maker Abbott has reached a deal with U.S. officials to restart production in their Sturgis, Michigan factory. It's the company's largest domestic factory, a key step toward easing a nationwide shortage tied to the plant's shutdown earlier this year. Abbott has said it will take at least 8 weeks to begin shipping new products to stores. Meanwhile, Deborah Alfarone takes us to Washington, where lawmakers are working on plans to restock store shelves as soon as possible.
The FDA commissioner says there actually is a sufficient amount of baby formula, even if you're having a hard time finding it.
We believe it is possible for all families to get formula. There is enough to go around, but it's not distributed in the right way.
Dr. Robert Califf also says the agency is working on a plan which may be announced today to make baby formula more accessible.
Over the weekend, one of the things that we worked on continuously was putting forth a set of rules that would enable the use of formula that was intended for other countries. Some of it even manufactured in the U.S. intended for other countries.
Congress is preparing to vote this week on a pair of bills to increase supply, including one to allow the U.S. to import formula from abroad. The other would make it easier for low-income families in the WIC program to buy formula.
The shortages began when a key manufacturer had to recall its formula after some babies became sick. The FDA has been criticized for not moving sooner to recognize the problem and fix the supply issues.
FDA didn't exert all the oversight that they could have of that facility. There were known problems with that facility going back many years. There were findings on previous inspections.
Dr. Scott Gottlieb, the former commissioner of the FDA, says one of the biggest issues is a shortage of regulators.
The entire industry in this country is overseen by 9 people. This has been an under-resourced part of the agency for a very long time, and that's contributing, I think, to these challenges.
Dr. Califf says he plans to ask Congress for more money to hire inspectors when he testifies on Capitol Hill this week. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News, the White House.
The Department of Justice is also working with state attorneys general to investigate possible baby formula price fixing. President Biden signed an order today to redeploy hundreds of U.S. troops to Somalia. U.S. troops will be repositioned from elsewhere in Africa to train and provide other support to Somali forces in their fight against an Islamic extremist group.
Our forces are not now, nor will they be, directly engaged in combat operations. The purpose here is to enable a more effective fight against al-Shabaab by local forces, and al-Shabaab has increased in their strength and poses a heightened threat.
It's a reminder that the U.S. remains engaged in the long fight against Islamic extremists around the world, even if the effort has been eclipsed by the war in Ukraine and other matters. Here at home, the West Fargo Police Department is launching a new school resource officer and comfort dog team. It's a first for the state of North Dakota. Canine Bella is a 14-month-old Labrador mix. She'll assist SRO Todd Pearson in fostering positive relationships with students, parents, faculty, and staff, and help students struggling with anxiety and depression. Later